Shake your style.
Hi guys! Today I'm going to talk about when to leave a relationship, whether it is a romantic relationship or a friendship or even a family member. And I just recently went through a really painful breakup. I am newly in my new home, and so all of my feelings are still fresh. But what I decided to do is I'm going to take different categories that I have had to work through, like different things that I've had to overcome. And I'm going to do separate videos for each one of them. And I'm going to talk about my relationship with men collectively and where I was at that time in my life that I was trying to make these decisions. So today it's going to be all about when to leave the relationship. And when I think back to my first really serious relationship, was the father of my children, and I was only 16 years old, and we got engaged and we had 2 children, and I felt like I was still looking for happiness from outside of myself. Like at that age, you have no idea what really life is all about. We still don't as adults, but we work on it as time goes on. So I really had no idea how to find happiness within. So everything that I did was looking for that validation from outside of myself, validation from my friends, from my boyfriend, from my fiance. And what happens when we do that is if someone lets us down, which they always will, we can only be in control of ourselves. Someone will always hurt you if you rely on them to make you happy. So it's not that every single person is mean or not able to make you happy. That's just not where you go for your happiness. Happiness is from within, always. That has to be solid before you can even think about getting into a relationship. So here I was, 16 years old, with a guy who was 14 years older than me. We fell in love, and it was not a healthy relationship at all, but I stayed because my whole just idea of what love in a relationship was distorted. And I don't know, it actually is not completely because of my age. I feel like looking around now at adults still have that distorted vision of where to find love. And don't get me wrong, it took me a long time to figure this out, and I'm still working on it every day. So that relationship I stayed in for 6 years. And finally, the reason that I left is when it personally became too much to handle. So when I look at all of my relationships, that is when I finally left, is when it just became, the pain of staying in that relationship just became too much for me to handle it. Here I was, a young mom trying to raise my children, and I could not be treated that way or be in a relationship that way that made me feel so just not able to be my best self. And even at that young age, I was 19 when I had my second son. And even at that age, I knew that. And that's when I finally left. And I personally, what happens, even when I was just starting out in relationships, I go through it mentally for a long time, and I try to hang in there, and I try to figure out ways to make it work, and I stick it out longer than I should. And then all of a sudden something comes over me like, nope, that's it. I cannot take this pain anymore. There've been too many chances. There've been too many promises. So it may look like it's a quick split-second decision, but it's not. Like, I had always talked to any person that I was in a relationship with numerous times, over and over and over months, over years, to try to work things out. And there were so many chances. Even comparing that relationship up until now that I'm 54 years old and just got out of another relationship, it's the same thing. I still give so many chances and do everything I can, like with my full heart and soul, to make that relationship survive, to just stick it out and to trust that person like really wants to make it work. So I just hang in and hang in and hang in until it just destroys me to the point where I can't do it anymore. So looking back, I'm seeing that pattern of how I dealt with relationships that were not good for me, you know, looking at being 16 years old and now being 54 years old. I still had that same pattern of trying to work through a relationship for a very long time before I made that decision. And the reason that I make such a quick decision and move so quickly is because I am 100% positive in that moment of hitting my emotional rock bottom where I cannot take the pain anymore, that I know that if I don't just go full bore, like get out of that relationship and not look back as fast as I can, like make everything happen so quick. I have left relationships like with nothing, just literally taken off, because I know that if I drag my feet and I take my time and make sure that everything is perfect and all the everything is lined up the right way, I won't do it. I'll back out. I'll get sucked back in. And because I keep myself in that cycle for so long of pain, and over all of my relationships, I've gone through it all, you guys. I have gone through severe physical abuse, emotional abuse, cheating. I've been through it all. So it really doesn't matter what the circumstances were in any of my relationships. I know that I gave every single relationship everything that I had, and I had to realize that it was just time to move on so that I could heal and be my best self and learn the lessons. And then if I look at the next relationship after that, was my daughter's father. So I have 3 children. My boys are from the first father that I was engaged to, and my daughter is from the next man that I was with, and I was also engaged to him. And so I had my daughter with him when I was 22, 19, 20, 22. Yeah. So by the time I was 22, I had 3 children. I was engaged again, and that was a very, very abusive relationship. Physically, emotionally, torturous relationship. And I stayed in that relationship for about 2 years. And when I look back at why did I even stay for that long, I was actually even being abused when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I still stayed. And someone who's never been through that kind of abuse doesn't understand that you stay because you don't have that love for yourself. You don't believe that you deserve any better, and you're afraid to leave and be alone. I was afraid. Now, you know, at the time, the first time he abused me, I was pregnant, and I was terrified. Like, I knew that I was in such a toxic relationship, but here I was pregnant with 2 other little children, And I stayed. I stayed for 2 years until, again, the same cycle of the abuse got too much to take. And honestly, the emotional abuse was way worse than the physical. I think if you've ever been through it, you would probably agree. Please let me know, you guys, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. That's what it's for, so we can communicate with each other, help each other. So finally I left, and this was one of those times that I left a relationship and I was scared. I was literally scared for my life. And I snuck in there while he was at work and tried to get out while he was on the phone, calling me every name in the book, saying, I'm on my way, I'm almost there, I don't even want to get into the details of it, but it was horrible. I did get out before he got there, and I literally packed up a house full of myself and my children's stuff in like 30 minutes, and that was it. I was gone. Anything that I couldn't throw in my car, I never got again. I left it behind. My pattern at the time was, because I was taking care of my 3 children and trying to just get through life, and they were my number one priority, I never took time for me. I was very young at the time. Now I was 24, had left my fiance, abusive relationship, 3 children, and I had to figure out just how I was going to survive and take care of my children. So at that time in my life, it really was not even a thought to put me first. It was always put my kids first. That's it. Now that my children are grown, they have children of their own. Now I have 4 grandchildren and my 3 children are grown. I realize that was exactly what I should have been doing, is putting me first and taking care of me first, because I never would have gotten into relationships like that. I would have loved myself and respected myself enough to not ever go into relationships like that. And now, as the older me, the grandma me, I can see the mistakes that I made. And let's not call it a mistake. I can see where I was internally, and what I was lacking was self-love, and to be kind to myself, and to tell myself that I deserve better, and to totally be able to fill all of that happiness within myself. And so if you're ever saying, yeah, I'm just like you, girl, my kids come first, my kids come first, they can't come first, you guys. You have to come first, because then you can be the best mom. You cannot be the best mom unless you are putting yourself first, unless you are filling yourself up with love and happiness and respecting yourself and valuing yourself. Then you can teach that to your children. You can be a better mom to your children, or dad, depending on who's watching. So that's a huge lesson that I have learned through my journey with breakups and relationships and men. That is one of the biggest things that I've learned. Leaving a relationship is always a personal decision. It's basically when you hit your emotional rock bottom, you either decide to stay and continue to be treated badly or abused, or just be in a relationship that's not fulfilling for you, or you leave. It's that simple. It's not simple, but the decision is that simple, where you need to ask yourself, can I live like this anymore? Am I willing to live like this anymore? And I feel like it's so easy for me to know when I have to get out of a relationship when I hit my emotional rock bottom, which means I become anxious, depressed, sad. Nothing makes me happy anymore. I feel like no joy in my life. I feel hopeless. Those are all feelings that are not there when I'm not surrounded by toxic people, when I'm not in toxic relationships. I am full of love and full of joy. So just knowing that, I hope that helps you guys understand, like, you've got to go within first. You've got to have that love for yourself with no one else in your life. No one. Don't think about your kids. Don't think about your friends. Don't think about your significant other. Don't think about anybody else. If you just sit there with yourself, do you feel happy and full? Or are you thinking about where you're trying to grab that happiness from the external world? Because that is where I messed up over and over and over, and I never got it. Like, I finally got it. And so that was the first two relationships. Then I got into another relationship that was a 4-year relationship, also physically and emotionally abusive. That relationship was mostly emotionally abusive, but it did turn physically abusive. I stayed in that relationship for 4 years, and it's almost like I was numb. Like, I just kind of stayed because I knew that I had a roof over my head. I went on welfare at the time because I wanted to be able to work. So at the time, what year was this? My daughter was around 2 or 3. She was around 3. My youngest was 3. So I was in this relationship, and the state was offering at the time, I don't know if they're offering this anymore, but they were offering to put you through school. So they put me through business school, paid for daycare. I was able to put my children in daycare. Oh, and by the way, even though I had 2 fathers for my 3 children, my 2 ex-fiancés, I got not one dime of child support ever. No, that's not true. I did get maybe like $10, maybe once every 6 months from the father of my daughter, because the state went after him, and then he left the state. So probably collectively, I got maybe $100 from him over her lifetime. So at that time, the state was offering to put you through school. I went to business school. I put my children in daycare, and I was able to get a skill so I could get a job. So I stayed on welfare for 1 year. I was able to take the skills that I got, and I immediately got a job as an administrative assistant. And before, like, if it was not for that, I had no skills. I didn't know how to type, nothing. Like, I had no skills. So once I remember just being so excited going through that training, that I had been in it for maybe a couple of months, and I was so dedicated. Like, I remember going home at night, and I would like lay in bed with the kids to get them to sleep. And I was just laying there like this, like in the dark, like practicing my keystrokes. And I was just so excited, and I felt so good about myself that I was trying to better myself in my life. So I remember the teacher had to go on vacation for a week, and she actually made me in charge of the class, like teaching the class. And yeah, that was a proud moment because I had 0 skills. Like, I didn't even graduate high school. I got my GED when my son was like 1. So yeah, I only had a GED and went to this business school. So yeah, that was a proud moment. So anyway, I got a job and was working my butt off, and then I started taking night classes in college. So here I am, a single mom doing all this, but it felt good. It felt good to like be independent and to be able to afford to work and go to school and take care of my children and have my own place. So after I left him, I had my own place for a while, for a few years. So then I met my first ex-husband. So I had two fiancés, and now I met my first ex-husband. And we were together for 13 years. He was a great husband. Like it was a great relationship. At the end, the biggest thing that made us like grow apart is I started really seeing that I was so passionate about growing as a person and changing and evolving. And I just constantly wanted to like learn and become a better person inside for myself, for my children, for the world. And he didn't want to grow. Like we weren't aligned anymore. We weren't on the same path, and we just grew apart. And after 13 years, we got a divorce. Then the next relationship after that was again, I was engaged twice to the same man. Oh, crazy. So that's a long story, but that would be a video in itself. That would be a series. But yeah, I was kind of into the party scene at that time, and it just was not a good scene. I really wasn't a drinker at all when my kids were little, but after I went through my first divorce, my youngest child was 18 years old. So then I started getting into drinking. So I drank from then, which was 2009. No, I think I started drinking at like 2007 when our marriage started falling apart. 2007, and I quit drinking October 3rd of 2020. So it's been over 2 years that I'm done drinking. I didn't drink for my whole life, and now I'm back to that. Like it doesn't serve me. It's not good for me at all, and I feel so much better. So that relationship was like on and off. We lived together for 2 years, and then I moved out. I was living by myself, and then we started dating again, and then we got engaged again. So we went through counseling. We did everything to make that relationship work, but I just feel like I was in such a different place in my mind at that time that I couldn't have like been in any healthy relationship. There's just no way, especially being like in that bar drinking scene, just totally not me, not my best self. And of course that relationship failed. After that, I was in another relationship for, how long was I with him? We didn't live together. I don't know if I should even bring up not living together relationships, but that was a serious relationship. Like we were in love. That just kind of fell apart. It just, again, the drinking thing. So I was with him for, I think like 2 years. Then I met my second ex-husband, and we were together for 3.5 years. And that is the first relationship where they left me. I put out videos of my whole journey through that, and that was one of my most painful breakups. No, that's not true. They were all painful. They were all so painful. It was painful because I didn't see that anything was wrong in the relationship. So I was really blindsided, and it's not like I'm usually very aware if something's off in a relationship. I'm very attuned to that. So the fact that he was playing it off like everything was fine, everything was great in every way possible, physically, intimately, our communication, like everything seemed fine. And one day he woke up and he's like, later. So yeah, I fell apart. That was bad. But again, I attempted to talk to him. I attempted to communicate to make it work. And he just wanted to have nothing to do with it. He was just like, no, it's over. We're done. I don't want to work on it. I don't want to go to a counselor. He's like, no, we're done. Once that happened, the same strength in me kicked in, where I realized, Lisa, you got to get out of bed. I literally laid in bed for 3 days and cried. I didn't eat. I just cried under the covers for 3 days. And that's when I started filming the healing of my breakup and like my journey through it, because I had to find something good out of something really, really painful that I was trying to work my way through. And I know how many people it helped. Like thousands of you have contacted me and told me how I literally changed your life. And I've even had people tell me that I saved their life. So I know that turning the camera on and sharing my journey to inspire you guys and share anything that I've learned just to help you, like, not give up, and just to realize that you got this. You can do it. It's all in here. And that's the biggest lesson that I have learned from this most recent breakup is stop looking for the perfect partner. Stop thinking that any other person or thing can fill your happiness. It will never happen. And even if you are with the perfect partner or find the perfect partner for you that allows you to be your best self and to heal and to grow, you still can't have an attachment to that, because if you're attached to that person, like, then they have control over your happiness. If they're sad, that makes you sad. If they leave, now you're lost. Now you're like, I don't have that thing anymore, that person anymore that I attach my happiness to. You have to be concrete, rock solid in there with your happiness. So when someone does come into your life, whether it's a friend or a partner, a lover, anything like that, you are solid concrete in their like happiness, whether they're there or not. You enjoy them, you enjoy their time, you enjoy like what you do together, you enjoy the whole experience, but you don't attach your happiness ever to another person, ever. It's just this huge like aha moment that I had after this last breakup. So after my divorce, a year later, I got into a committed relationship. In my heart and my mind, it was not a serious relationship. I was still in that drinking party mode. And again, just to be clear, I was never an everyday drinker, but my issue with alcohol was that I was a binge drinker. So I would go days, months, weeks, even I've gone like a year within that time frame, starting in 2007 until 2020 of not drinking at all. But my unhealthy relationship with alcohol was the binge drinking, where as soon as I would go out, I would start drinking, and 9 times out of 10, I could not stop. I would black out and not remember what happened and get myself so sick. I would be recovering like for a week. So that relationship, a year after my divorce, lasted like 9 months and turned into something that was very, very unhealthy for me. And again, when I make these videos, you guys, I'm not giving you details. It's not what this is about, because it doesn't matter. Like, that's not going to help you any more or less if I give you details. Plus, I just would not do that. This isn't about, outing anyone or gossiping or anything like that. It's about getting through things that are hard and navigating our way through relationships and through life. So after that relationship is when I met my current ex, the relationship that just ended. And him and I were friends for a year. I actually met him when I started dating the ex before him. I met him like right around the same time, but we were just friends. And I immediately felt a connection with him, like something I couldn't explain. I just really enjoyed talking to him. Like I felt like he had like this spiritual side of him that is very attractive for me, because that's the path that I'm on in life. And I love talking about like bettering ourselves and growing in the universe and the divine, and just, it's exciting to me to continue to figure life out and to become a better person. So when I meet anyone, even like a girlfriend or anything, who gets it, I love talking about that kind of stuff. Like, that is what really connects me to people and makes me feel like chit chat with people, that meaningless chit chat, I cannot stand. Like, it's totally cringy to me. Like, but if somebody really wants to talk about real stuff and, go a little deep, then you've got my attention. Then there's going to be some kind of a connection. So that's how I felt with him. And we were just friends for a year. So right at the beginning of COVID, we started dating, and we were both drinking, and we were both drinking a lot more once COVID hit. So 4 months after we had been dating, I said, yeah, that's it. I'm done. Oh, my daughter's calling. Hang on, honey. I'm almost done. Can you hear that ringing? Hang on, baby girl. It always seems like everyone calls when I'm trying to film, right? I'm filming on my phone because I don't have my good camera here yet, because I just moved in. So hang on, we gotta wait for her to finish ringing. Okay, so 4 months after we started dating, I said, yeah, I'm done drinking, like forever, done, the end. He decided that he also wanted to stop drinking. I didn't expect that of him. It was just like, we had kind of talked about it before. So he's like, yep, I'm with you. Just give me another week. So he drank for another week, and then we both quit together. Then we went through the move to go to Florida because his business fell apart due to COVID. It was pharmaceutical, hospitals, everything like that were his customers. So once COVID hit, like that will never be the same again. So he was going through a really hard time, and that's when we decided, let's just go to Florida, where we both love. We'll start over. We bought a house together, moved to Florida, and so we had been together for about a year and a half at that time that we bought a house together. And the conversations that we had were very deep and spiritual. And I truly believed that that was the person that I was supposed to be with, where I could be my best self and I could continue growing and healing, and we could help each other and learn from each other and be on the same path, because those were the words that were spoken to me by him. And that is what really connected me to him. Once we got to Florida, we were just busy with doing the renovations on the house, and that was just like nonstop. So as time went on, I realized that the painful things that were happening in the relationship, I was losing myself, and it was taking away who I was, and my joy and my peace was gone. I went into a deep depression. My anxiety was through the roof. I couldn't work. I couldn't function. I locked myself in the bedroom, and I hit my total emotional rock bottom. We tried for a long time to make things work. We did go to counseling. I was the one who said, you know, if I'm going to keep giving you more and more chances, one of the things is if our communication gets off track, that we have to go to counseling. You have to agree to that if I'm going to stay. So we were working through this for a long time. We were working through this where we were having a lot of problems for about 3 months before I left. It was almost exactly 3 months before I left when it got really bad. So he agreed. We went to counseling one time, and I brought up something that was hard for me to say, but it was something so simple that should not have been hard to say. And it should have been discussed and understood between the two of us very easily. But at that point where our communication had broken down so bad, it's literally like we were on different planets. So the smallest little thing that I would try to bring up to him would completely get blown out of proportion, or like misunderstood, or I would be afraid to say anything because I would get like snapped at. So the counseling lasted one session. Everything crashed and burned after that one session. And so I remember the counselor saying, okay, your time is up. And I'm like, oh man, this isn't good. I'm thinking to myself, because he was all like amped up and angry, and we had just finished like arguing in front of the counselor, and now she's like, time's up, go home. And we weren't going to see her for another week. And I'm like, oh Lord, oh Lord. So I just tried to stay really calm. And yeah, the way I was feeling was exactly what happened. Like, that was the beginning of the end. And the next week came, and he refused to go to see the counselor. So I went myself. And then we had the hurricane. We had Hurricane Ian, and we had to evacuate, and we were not speaking at all at that point. And we went to Miami, got separate hotel rooms, and tried to work on our friendship. And that's what I said. I'm like, look, if there's any chance that this is ever going to work, we have to start from square one and build our friendship up again, because we weren't even friends at that point. We weren't even able to talk and communicate. So how on earth were we going to just say, okay, I forgive you again. Let's go back into a relationship? Because if you think about it, the only thing in addition to a friendship is the intimacy and the sex. So if we couldn't, that part is no problem, right? I think in most relationships, well, not most, but in my relationship, that part wasn't an issue. The problem was that we couldn't communicate, and the friendship was no longer a friendship. And I still didn't give up on our relationship. And I still kept trying. And it wasn't until I hit my emotional rock bottom of depression, anxiety, not being able to function as a human, and I could not take the pain anymore. And over many months of me battling with this within, and doing everything I could to make it work, it came to me that I had to leave. It was so clear. And it came to me when I came back to Connecticut to visit my family for my birthday. And I feel like for everyone, your emotional rock bottom is going to be different. And some people stay stuck in their emotional rock bottom forever just because the pain and the misery that they're in that relationship is more comfortable than the thought of starting over, than the thought of being alone, than the thought of going through everything that comes with leaving a relationship. It's hard, it's painful, but to me, staying in a hard, painful relationship that's not healthy is more painful to me than getting out, because I have that solid foundation of love within myself that I know when I'm sad and I'm falling apart and I feel like lost and alone, that is not the truth. Those are just thoughts going through my head. But when I can sit with myself and be quiet with myself, you can feel all the love and everything you need is right in here. It's right in your soul. It's right in your heart. You have to be able to fill yourself up with everything that you would want from another person. Always. Even if you have that perfect partner for you, we still have to constantly fill ourselves up, because if we don't, then we have nothing to give. And then we're putting our happiness in someone else's hands. No matter what kind of relationship it is, we have to have that peace and happiness from within. So at that point, when you're feeling like this is unbearable, you have to ask yourself a question. Can I live like this? Am I willing to live like this? Because if you're not, the only choice is to leave. Because we cannot change anyone else, but we can change ourselves. People do change, but only we change. See what I'm saying? Like, people change. I've changed so much because it was my choice. I wanted to. But if I look back at past relationships, and if I ever say run into someone, I'm like, wow, they're exactly the same. Like, we are completely not aligned anymore in our values, in our growth, in our like just evolving through life. There's no, it's not who I am anymore, because I made the choice to grow and learn and change myself. People do change, but don't ever expect someone else to change. You can only change yourself. You can only make your own decisions. And you got to just keep working on yourself to find that peace and that happiness within yourself. And once we can let go of those beliefs and just look within to fill those things that we so desperately need filled, we don't have that attachment to past relationships. And then we don't take that crap from the old relationships into the next relationship. Like, I can look at this relationship as for what it was. Like, I can give all of the gratitude for what I had, for the relationship that I had, for the lessons that I learned, but I can't hang on to the hurt that happened through this relationship, or hang on to feeling betrayed in this relationship. I can't hang on to that. Like, that you have to let go of and just go within, Find that peace, happiness, love within yourself. Work on yourself, grow yourself, get more connected to yourself so that you can be your best self and put that out into the world. Like, I never would have started up videos like this again if I wasn't going through it. So it's like I was being guided. You have to trust the guidance to your life. Like, no matter what happens, when things happen or like are gone out of your life, whether it's a person, a thing, whatever, that is a clear sign that you are being pushed in a different direction. If you fight it, if you take all of the bad energy with it, you're just going to keep repeating the same cycle over and over and over. That's what I did for so long. I was going to one horrible abusive relationship to another, to another, to another. Now, I learn so much from every relationship. And it's like, I don't beat myself up over it because I see so clearly the lessons that I was supposed to learn from this relationship. And what I notice, and I've done this in the past too, is I would be in such a toxic, abusive relationship that I would start downing my light. I would down myself to their level to make it more bearable. I didn't believe in myself, and now I do. And now I know that I deserve to be happy always, to be with someone who is in alignment with me so I can continuously be my best self. So that whether I'm single or in a relationship, that I can still give everything that I have within to the world, to myself, to everyone I love. And that's the key, is just to make sure that you're always, whoever you're with or in a relationship with, that you feel safe and at peace and you can be your best self and you're not downing yourself to their level to make it more comfortable. The wounds that we feel within, we are constantly trying to fill through external circumstances, through external things, people. Something I realized is my pattern with men came from how my relationship was with my father. My father was the most loving, kind, beautiful, amazing human being you would ever want to meet. And he passed away 6 years ago from cancer. My relationship with my father, that I never realized until recently, was everything that I could have ever wanted or needed. Everything, like the perfect father. And then he would lose his temper and scream and yell and say hurtful things. And then he would apologize and lure me back in. I love you. I'm sorry. Those are the kind of men that I've always been drawn to. The ones who fill up everything I need, say everything right, do everything right, so loving, kind, amazing, the things they do and say, oh my gosh, like incredible. And then they snap, whether it's physical abuse, emotional abuse, cheating, whatever it is. And then I forgive. And then I get sucked back in. And then it's a vicious cycle, back and forth. Just being able to realize how familiar that feeling of the back and forth of everything I need to the most hurtful things, back and forth, forgiveness. And It makes total sense. So now that I realize that, now is when all the healing really begins. And it's kind of like I saw the light, like just identifying the pattern is like, okay, and realizing that you cannot feel anything internal from the outside world. You have to completely be responsible for your own happiness. I will never again give my happiness to another person. When things start to fall apart, instead of you falling apart, like if something starts falling apart in a relationship and you've done all you can, you don't have to fall apart. Like I just cried and cried and cried and cried and fell apart, like could not even function. But now I understand the reason I was able to pull it together so quick after I got away from that. And I was able to be in this home now by myself to center myself. I'm like, oh my God, it was in here all along. It's all in here. So it doesn't mean that you become cold and you like push everyone away. It just means that once you are full of love and confidence and happiness and joy and peace within, you hang on to that, whether you're in a relationship or not. Please leave any questions, comments, ideas. Let's all help each other out as a community. And the bottom line is, all the love you need is in here, you guys. So if you're suffering, or if you're in like a toxic relationship right now, or just went through a breakup or anything, or lost someone for any reason, having problems with friends, with family, with whatever, just keep coming back to in here and sit with yourself, fill yourself up with love. And when you finally feel that feeling, you will be free. Like you will know. Just spend as much time with yourself as you can, just being still with yourself. I wish you guys all love and happiness and clarity to make the right decision for you. And just know that you got this and you can do it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more videos. I will be posting a lot more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. Bye.